Are you on the New Year's cycle? That hamster wheel of make a resolution only to break that resolution a short time later and then feel really defeated as though you're nothing more than a failure? And are you ready to get off of that cycle and feel good about yourself for maybe the first time ever? Welcome, everyone. I'm Dr. Marcia Martin, the heart healer, and today we're going to take a look at why resolutions don't work, why you need to stop making those resolutions, what you can do instead, and as always, who can help. So if you have a list of resolutions that you've written down, or if you just have a list that you've created in your mind, some form of firm decision that you decided you've got to accomplish, I want you to rip it up right now. And you can tell me in the chat if you have that list and if you've ripped it up. No more shame and blame. No more hurting yourself by setting yourself up for failure with the resolution system that isn't working. Now, don't be shy. Let me know if you are the kind of person that makes resolutions every year only to find a short time later that they're not working for you. Let's understand, it's not you. It's the energetic vibration that you set into motion that is causing you the problem. So, why don't resolutions work? Well, just look at the name resolution. It's a resolve, a determination, a decision to hold fast to a certain way of being. Now, one of the things that the angels love to remind us is that we need to be as water. We need to flow. We've got to stop acting like we are ice, because ice is brittle and rigid and it will break. So when you are making a firm decision, a resolution, you're not going to change your mind for anything, you have turned yourself into a block of ice. You have removed yourself from the place where you can flow with divine guidance, with the circumstances that you're interacting with, and actually receive some forward motion on your spiritual journey instead of just running up against blockades. So on the surface, it sounds great to identify something that you desire and to make that determined effort to get it. But we need to understand that too often we are making our resolutions from the ego place instead of our space of alignment. So let's take a look at what is happening to us on the spiritual plane when you make a decision, any decision, and this is going to be true for every decision. So just, it happens to be New Year. We are in a place where we are often assigning ourselves these, I'm going to make a resolution to be this certain way, acquire this positive attribute. So we're using resolutions. But these spiritual principles are going to apply to every decision that you make. The first thing that happens is that you identify a desire. Now, if you are not in your aligned state, you are identifying a desire that the ego says is going to bring it something that it perceives that it is missing. So you're already starting, if you're coming from the ego place, you're already starting a step behind. You've already identified something is wrong, something is missing. You're not quite cutting it for some reason or in some way. So we need to remember that we want to make our spiritual decisions from the place of alignment. And when you make your decision, not just from a place of alignment, but from a place with a clear and healed heart, you are going to have much less noise getting between you and really good decisions. You're not going to feel like a failure or as though you are lacking or missing. So when you make your decision, you should purposely be focusing on a decision or a desire that really feels uplifting to you and not becoming upset. You don't want to do this from a position of I have not. When there is a disruption to the plan, then you get that rigidity. Then you become determined to succeed. Then you become brittle. You are always going to succeed. You are going to find a way to expand and to grow and to become more from the circumstances. But when you put roadblocks in your way, when you say it has to be this way, I have to do this thing in this amount of time, you are making it next to impossible for you to achieve because you are very likely cutting out your divine guidance. The guidance that you receive is going to flow with you as you encounter new information, new people, and new circumstances. If you don't account for divine guidance, you're trying to do it the difficult way, the brittle way, the way of the ego. So when we are in that brittle way, when we are in that place where we are saying it has to be this or I'm going to consider myself a failure, then we find that we start entering that pattern of moving ahead because while the determination is strong, you're going to be really motivated to move ahead. But when you don't see progress that you believe you should see, and generally we have unrealistic ideas of how much progress we should be able to make, when you don't see that progress or something interferes, you start slipping back. And this is where that feeling of defeat and feeling as though you're a failure starts climbing in. And that's where it's going to cause you to really have some difficulties. So if we have resolve or we are determined to do something, and again, we're looking at this from the spiritual viewpoint, we are forcing instead of flowing. We are demanding rather than inquiring. We are creating a rigid energetic signature. And we know that rigid is brittle and rigid will shatter. Rigid is unable to handle a setback or a delay. Rigid is out of divine alignment. Rigid keeps you headed in a direction even if it's not for your highest good. And rigid ensures eventual defeat because rigid is of the ego and it is based on the foolish belief that you know better. And I am not trying to make you feel bad by using words such as foolish, but as deeply sensitive beings on spiritual journeys, you are aware that the ego does not have the answers. So when we allow ourselves to rely on the ego instead of our divine guidance, we have to admit that we are behaving in a manner that is extremely foolish. So now what happens when you set a resolution? What are you identifying that you want to happen to the spiritual energetic world that we all live in? First of all, you are coming from the negative. You're saying, oh, I'm lacking this thing. I am less than sufficient in this thing. So you're coming from the negative and you're trying to get to the positive. You're not even starting at neutral ground. You're starting way back here and you want to get way up here. And you're saying, and I have to do it in a few minutes or it's not going to count. Now, what we know spiritually is that when we work with the divine, even if we feel like we are starting way behind, they will help us get to a neutral place where we can go in either direction, because working with our divine guidance allows us to be released of the shame and the blame. And then we can make progress. Even if it's tiny, we can be proud of that progress and not keep slipping back. So let's pretend that my New Year's resolution is the thing that I'm trying to correct is that I'm not exercising. So my New Year's resolution is to exercise every day. My resolution is making me focus on the negative. My resolution is firm, rigid. There is no will in there. What if, for whatever reason, I am up too late? Let's say I'm working. I'm up late working. I'm trying to finish something for someone that I'm working with or a promised project. And so I have to work late into the night. And I am not able, I need that extra 15 minutes sleep or whatever it is that I grant myself the next morning. I am not able to get my exercise in the morning. Well, if I said that I'm going to exercise every day and it has to be in the morning, I've now just set up a self-defeating problem. I'm not leaving any room for things to come up, for life to get in the way, for things to materialize that I need to be able to work with instead of against. So first I put the negative in front, and then I've made it impossible to achieve my goal because I am causing it to be so steeped in negativity. Because I'm not doing this, I have to have determination or be resolved to exercise every day. I don't feel good about myself when I am speaking myself in that way. I feel shameful. I feel not enough. And perhaps as though I will never be enough. Resolution comes from feeling bad. It doesn't come from a space of motivation that is positive. It comes from that I'm so sick of feeling shameful. I'm going to resolve to feel good. The energetic root is in what's wrong with you. Why are you such a failure? Why are you just not good enough? Resolution implies that you won't do anything worthwhile without being pushed. So you have limited value. None of these things is motivating me or reminding me that I am empowered. All of these ways of looking at myself, and believe me, I spent years and years making resolutions. All of these ways in which I am talking to myself made me feel less than. I have to be pushed. I'm not good enough as I am. I have to resolve to do better. And none of them ever worked. So now you have your resolution and you've firmly decided that you have to change. You've created the spiritual platform that says, you better look at what's wrong all of the time. Never forget your past failures. Forgetting means you're going to be repeating them. You always need to remember why you're in this bad place in the first place. Look at all of the ways in which you've failed. Examine everything, because you're now forced to do this as a result of your previous failure. This is the energetic spiritual platform that you have created in order to tell yourself that now you're going to move forward. It's almost impossible. Look at the ways in which you're not good enough. You don't make the cut. This is what you're saying to yourself every time you look at the list of resolutions or you repeat them in your head, and you get even more bound and determined that this time you're going to make it. And finally it says, look at the fact that you have to be forced to take action. On your own, it's clear you have limited value. This is what you're asking yourself to use as your way to move forward. Now let's add in law of attraction, and let's see the beautiful spiritual soup that you're creating for yourself. And remember, you're not getting away from or out from underneath law of attraction. Law of attraction doesn't reason. It's not going to stop and say to itself, she really wants to accomplish this exercise goal. Yeah, but she feels really bad about herself. So she's really put herself down with this exercise thing. So maybe we should just find ways to lift her up. Law of attraction doesn't improve your thoughts. It's not going to say lovely things to me like, wow, last year you exercised quite a bit. Let's continue that great trend. No, it's going to repeat back to me that which I'm thinking and feeling. And I already said that I am imprinted on my spiritual, energetic signature that I'm not good enough because I have to be forced to take an action. And law of attraction doesn't prevent a disaster. Law of attraction is only capable of delivering you what you are thinking about, what you have attached emotion to, so what you're getting really worked up about. What it is capable of doing is magnifying that to you, for you, and returning it. It's not going to do your thinking for you. It's not going to remind you this is really a bad avenue to be running down. Law of attraction is simply going to magnify the energy signature that you've already got running around in your mind, and it will deliver more of that to you so you can experience what you are thinking and feeling. That resolution that's making you feel bad about yourself, law of attraction is going to make sure that you feel even worse. And because law of attraction is in the mix and we can't get away from it, it's the number one reason why you end up breaking most of those New Year's resolutions that you are making. So if we want to get better results, we have to offer better thoughts. Let's scrap all of that. As I said earlier, I want you to tear up that list of resolutions. Let's start over. Let's understand how we can work in harmony with our spiritual signatures, with divine guidance, and still get the result that we want. So, what can we do instead? Well, Let's begin making heartfelt and self-honoring promises. Let's set an intention that feels good, because first we're going to recognize that we are good and we are deserving of this outcome. So, what can you do? Well, you have to come from self-love. If you want to stay steeped in that place of negativity and self-hatred, just keep making resolutions. If you want to make a heartfelt promise that you can actually keep and feel good about keeping, then you come from self-love. Self-love includes being forgiving. Hey, there are days that you didn't exercise in the past. That's all right. I'm so proud of you for all of the days in which you did. It's really amazing to see how much you were able to get done, even if you exercised one day. You must be honest. You don't want to tell yourself, oh, wow, you're really great at this exercising when you exercise one day. Okay, you know what? We had some really rough days there where we didn't exercise at all, but on the days that we did, it was really great, or at least we were making an effort. Whatever would be true for you is what you want to acknowledge so that you don't feel like a liar. If you set up this big lying sort of thing going on, you're going to constantly feel as though you're an imposter, that you don't deserve this success because you're a liar. Take away all of the negatives by being honest. So far, we understand that we got to be self-loving, forgiving, honest, realistic. What if you don't have the physical capability to exercise every day? Well, most of us can exercise to some degree every day. So we've got to make sure that whatever thing that we've set out for ourselves actually matches what we are capable of doing. Let's just say that I was in a wheelchair. It would be unrealistic for me to say that I have to do leg strengthening exercises every day if I am unable to move my legs. However, I could do some other strengthening exercise that would benefit my body. You must work with what you have instead of trying to make yourself into something that you're not. Be kind and be flexible. If you want to be rigid, you're going to be like ice and you're going to be brittle and easily broken. Think about icicles. They form these incredible, sharp, often sharp points. They look like they could be very destructive, and sometimes they are. But they can also be knocked down by a force that any force that is willing to consistently knock on them can generally defeat that very wicked looking icicle. Be committed and be positive. Now, being committed might sound different from being flexible, but you can still be flexible and be committed. Okay, I'm going to allow myself to be flexible, to do what I can when I can, and I'm going to stay committed to doing what I can when I can with what I have, instead of setting unrealistic goals that I know that I can't meet, that I'm going to try to hold on to firmly. And then I want to throw the whole thing away when I end up not being able to stick to that rigid schedule. So be committed, no matter how many times you have to start over. You allow yourself to start over, and be positive. If you are only capable of making this much progress, I want you to say to yourself, oh my gosh, you're amazing. Be your own best cheerleader. You are so incredible. Look at all that you have done. Don't measure how much, just wow, that's amazing. And leave it there. So, our old one was my New Year's resolution is to exercise every day. Our new one is going to be my New Year's promise is to find ways to add more movement into my daily life. That is one that everyone should be able to handle without any difficulty. If you sit at a desk every day, set an alarm on your clock, on your phone, so that you get up every half hour and you walk around or you stretch or you do something that changes your position. Always add on and increase the difficulty as you are making progress. But remember to begin with the simplest of goals, the simplest of activities, so that you can feel good, because the more that you feel good, the more that you'll be motivated and the more likely that you're going to keep making this forward progress that honors you. Expect more as you can deliver more, and that's your path forward to success. And expect more because when you expect more, when you have no ability to achieve it, now you're just opening the door for failure. So let's say I do sit at a desk for 8 hours out of my workday. And I tell myself the way that I'm going to get more exercise in my day is on my break, and let's give me a 15-minute break, a lunch, half an hour lunch, and another 15-minute break. So I've actually got 2 half-hour segments in there. So I tell myself on my breaks and on my lunch hour, I'm going to walk. Well, that sounds great, but it may be raining, it may be snowing, it may be too hot. And there I would start telling myself, oh, look, you're worthless. You didn't accomplish your goal. You didn't do this. You didn't do that. So you got to allow yourself, okay, I have these 15-minute breaks. I can do stretching. I can do standing. I could find ways in which I can build some more movement into my day during those 15-minute breaks and my half-hour lunch. And I'll have lots of different options so that I can work with the weather, work with my schedule, work with how I'm feeling, and I'm just going to reward myself every time I accomplish even the smallest goal. Because remember, when we expect more with no ability to achieve it, you are just put a sign around your neck that says, I want to fail. Nobody wants to fail. Don't make it so difficult. Make it easy. Partner with the divine and the angelic realm. When you partner with them, you will have a lot more fun in your day, and you'll see how easy it can be to succeed when you are not actively being the roadblock in the way. Remember to be like water. Water in its natural state, when it hasn't had anything working on it, is always flowing, and water is tremendously strong. Think about all these tsunamis or a flood when we are drenched with rain and the river overflows. That water can push buildings out of the way. Cars get moved. Water is incredibly strong. You will be so much stronger as you flow like water than if you allow yourself to be frozen in place and become rigid like the ice cube or the icicle. And you also don't want to be water that has become vaporized, because then you'll have no firm footing in which you can allow yourself to really monitor your progress and feel good about your success. You're not going to be well anchored with the divine. You won't be anchored in your physical. You'll just kind of be floating, sort of nebulous, unable to really accomplish anything. And when we're accomplishing nothing, or we're stuck, rooted in fear, it doesn't feel good. So now, you know how you're going to get it done. You recognize that when you become too resolute, when you get that, I'm determined, you just start really giving in to the demands of the ego instead of allowing yourself to be guided by the divine. So, who is going to be able to help us to make sure that we are not giving into those ego-like bull, bull-headed kind of tendencies, but we are really honoring our ability to walk the divine? And we have two helpers for that. The first is Archangel Metron, who was formerly Enoch. And Enoch was a skilled and honest scribe during his lifetime. He was so good at holding his divine alignment. And he says that he knows what it's like to be both human and divine. So he wants to help you hold your divine alignment while you are still being human. Remember, he's the keeper of the Akashic records. So he's going to have access to information that will help you. Information about traumas that you need to leave behind, ways in which you're not honoring yourself, and ways in which you can move forward to be the greatest version of yourself. His energy is strong and highly focused. He is very motivational, and he wants to help provide you with understanding. So the minute you feel yourself getting rigid and stuck or vaporing and not really being anywhere, call on Archangel Metatron to get you focused, to give you understanding, and to help you motivated. The other helper, we've got three. I'm sorry. I thought there were only two today. The other helper, Archangel Zadkiel, righteousness of God. Helping you to see the divine light within yourselves. Sometimes we get so caught up in our name calling or in feeling badly about who we are or what we have allowed to happen in our lives that we forget that we are divine. So Archangel Zadkiel will help you see the divine light within yourself, and he will also help you to clear away any unforgiveness. Always begin with you. With that unforgiveness, you're the most important person in your life. And finally, Archangel Uriel. Archangel Uriel's name means God is light. And since we are all divine beings, there is light within each one of us. And that light allows us to expand and to become more and to become even more able to hold more of the divine essence. But also, that light is very practical and solution oriented. So Archangel Uriel is going to help you find practical solutions to these things that you want to accomplish and help you find creative and insightful ways to reach whatever promises that you might have made. Yes, it's a wonderful thing to make a promise to yourself, to say, this is a goal that I want to achieve. And this would make me feel even better about myself than I already do. But it is incredibly cruel to tell yourself that you are not good enough and you need to be punished in order to achieve some sort of recognition. Love yourself first, and then ask for divine guidance and angelic support so it will be easy for you to reach all of your goals. Thanks so much for being here, everyone. I so appreciate you. And if you want help, you want to dive even deeper and have access to tools and techniques that the angelic community has given to me, then there is a link to join our Patreon community, My Heart's Desire, because God wants you to have the desires of your heart. Thanks, everyone. Sending you much love.